I have the old jack supporting the gas tank with a piece of wood. I'm going to drop the 7 nuts. I believe they're all 13 millimeter nuts. There's 3 back here, or 4 back here, and 3 in the front. I'll probably get the 3 out in the front, then take these 4 out, drop this down slightly. There's I believe 1 wire connection and 2 hoses. One's to the engine and one's the return line, I believe, or a vent. I'm also going to, before I do any of that, I'm going to remove these 4 bolts so that I can remove these 4. Actually, I probably only need to remove these 4, but the purpose of removing these 4 is so that when I pull the gas tank down, I have no problem with that. I don't believe that there is a ground on the gas tank, but once I get in there, I will figure that out, and if there's a ground, I will disconnect that. So there's an update on what I'm doing. So gas tank skid right behind the track bar. You can see 1, 2, and then if we go all the way over here, 3. That's the 3 bolts that you need from the front side of the gas tank. Once you get those out, you can slide out. I have the jack pretty much lifting up the back of the Jeep to hold the skid plate up. Let me get this last one out, and you can see it's right there. Not as ready as it appeared. Alright. So those 3 nuts are off. So now I need to get 1, 2, 3, 4. These are holding the gas tank straps. Now, we don't need to take those out right now, but we will be taking them out to put in the skid plate. You're going to remove these. Now, this one looks like it's been rounded off a little bit. 13 millimeter. The next size down is actually a 1/2 inch. So, actually had to try that. Now, let's work that off. Sometimes it just, you can see it's kind of chewed up. I'll need to replace that one, but I'll have 3 on the back that are good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these other ones down and start dropping the tank. Start dropping the tank. I'm not going to let go too far because I have connections up there that I need to disconnect. I'm going to go really, really slow. Let's see on. there's just a couple of gallons of fuel in the tank. I was able to actually drive it until it was almost empty, so shouldn't be too terribly heavy. You can see the straps there. See if I can finagle my hands up in there. Alright. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and not that I need to worry about that, but I'm going to go ahead and drop this down and work on those connections. As you can see, I've already disconnected those 4 bolts. So here we go. There we are at the fuse box now. Battery cable's disconnected. Alright. So what we're looking for is the fuel pump relay, which is 37. You can see that these two are here. So our fuel pump relay is here. And all we're going to do is pull that out and set it aside. We're going to get in the Jeep and crank it. And that's going to relieve the pressure from the fuel line. I think that's the last step we need to do before we actually drop the tank. So now I'm going to go ahead and push in the clutch and start it. And that should do it. The Jeep didn't run. So here we are at the negative battery cable. I need to disconnect it because I'm, taking my gas tank out. But here we are at the negative gas. Here we are at the negative battery cable. You can see it's kind of got some corrosion on it. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect it, and I'm going to get some cleaner. Sometimes they say, oh, you could put some Coca-Cola or whatever, but I'm actually going to take a little brush and some electrical cleaner, and I'm going to clean that all off. It's winter time, and I don't want to end up with a dead battery, and those deposits can kind of drain your battery. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. All right. So here's the tank out. Jeep. 2004. I had to disconnect this vent tube. Two vents were running up here. They were zip tied to this. I had this connection, which came out pretty easy. This connection, which I think I broke it, but I'm not sure. This connection, you could disconnect it here, and then there was this crazy big one. And I could not find anywhere that would tell me how to disconnect these things. Everybody was like, oh, you just press the connections, da-da-da-da-da. I've seen those a ton of times on GMs. I have not, however, seen this type of connector before. So I ended up using this, a scratch awl, but I used the tip to pop those off, and it popped up like that. Oops. Popped up like that, and I was able to remove the line. It's still connected here at the fuel pump, You can see it's still, but you can see that I broke the connector trying to pry this way. So that is not the way to do it. I think as long as those are still pressed down in there. Oh, well, maybe I'll be replacing the fuel line. Well, we'll see. I might see what I can do with it. I definitely do not want to have to do this a multitude of times. It's not the most fun job, as you can imagine, and it took me a little bit longer because of these connections. I mean, the electrical connection that, you know, you pull the little red tab out, and I apparently didn't get it all the way out, and that's why I broke it, but I'm less concerned about that. If anything, I can, you know, after I get it seated where I believe it is, I'll, you know, wrap it in electrical tape. But that is a problem. So I may be hitting the auto parts store in the morning. Not that it's very late. I just have things I want to do tonight. So there's the painted skid plate. It's actually sitting on cardboard if you can't tell. Ready for the tank. So what I'm doing next, as you can see, this little, it's part of the tank strap. So it has these little plastic caps. Pull that cap off, and I sprayed some lube on there. You know, your tank's been under there getting rusty for been getting rusty for how long? So I went ahead and sprayed them with a lubricant, and I'm gonna take those off. I am unfortunately using a wrench. At my parents' house, don't have my tools, don't have my deep well sockets, so it's going to take me a bit. But basically, take those nuts off, the straps come off, and we can transfer the straps to the new skid plate, and then the tank. I did end up buying new clips. I didn't have to buy the whole fuel line. I searched through the help section at O'Reilly's, and the parts were listed for GM and Ford, but they looked exactly the same. So I talked to the man behind the counter. In this case, he actually knew what he was talking about, and he's like, yep, we get those all the time. And they, you know, you don't have to go to the dealer for these little clips. The little box of them was, you know, $4.50. Listed for Ford and GM, not Chrysler. So you push that back in, just like this one is. I pushed it all the way back in. So when I go to hook it up, I can just slide it over. The connection's already made, and it's that easy. So I'm gonna go take this bolt, or these nuts off these straps, so I can switch them over to the new skid plate.